Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And for years, Xbox fans have been wanting an Xbox handheld console. Well, head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, is actually right now embracing the low-key Xbox handheld console, the Steam Deck. In fact, it almost seems like something's brewing over there together with Xbox and Valve, so we're going to kind of take a look at that and what it all means for the future of Xbox and, again, the Steam Deck. Now, also, Metroid Dread seems to be primed for a big holiday. We've kind of talked about this on the channel multiple times, that I think that Metroid Dread very possibly will end up being the best-selling Metroid game ever made, or at least until Metroid Prime 4. And well, we actually got some real data this time, and yeah, it definitely seems like Metroid Dread is primed for a major breakout. So we're going to go over all of that as well. First, though, we need to talk about Xbox Game Pass because they have been absolutely killing it the last 30 or so days. I mean, really, if you take a look at the last 30 or so days for Xbox Game Pass, they've had quite a few really good games that's released, especially with day one releases. Just going back through the last 30 days, you've gotten games like Crystals, Omno, Dodgeball Academia, Hades, which is a phenomenal game. Then you have Flight Simulator, The Ascent, and yeah, for the most part, those have been pretty good games, especially with Flight Simulator and Hades. And what's crazy about all this is that there's actually more promising day one releases coming out in the next 10 or so days. In fact, tomorrow on August 17th, you do have Humankind that's releasing directly into Xbox Game Pass for PC, and reviews are starting to roll out now. Now, so far, this does have an 80 overall score on Metacritic, and it's drawing a lot of comparisons to the Sid Meier's Civilization series. Now, obviously, the Civ series is among the best historical strategy games in the entire game industry, so to get compared to a game like that, yeah, that's overall a good sign. But it's not just getting compared to the Civ series. It does seem like, for the most part, critics are really liking this game. I'm hearing that it's technically sound, it's robust, and has a lot to offer. It's accessible to new players with plenty of tutorials to take, and you know, it just sounds like fans of these historical strategy games are really going to like Humankind. And for that matter, this is a part of the beauty when it comes to Xbox Game Pass. If you do have Xbox Game Pass for PC, and if you are on the fence when it comes to a game like Humankind, well, you can download it yourself and see whether or not you like it or not. I do want to point out, though, because I do see this a lot online, but we can't just continue to say that Xbox Game Pass is filled with fodder and nothing else, because if you look at just the last 30 days, like I've already pointed out, there's a lot of really good games there, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a couple more throughout this month with 12 minutes, and especially Psychonauts 2. Very confident in that one. Yeah, that one releases on August 25th, and super, super excited for that one. Next up, let's talk about an intriguing PlayStation leak, especially for fans of the old Twisted Metal franchise. Yeah, I know it's been a little while since we've seen a Twisted Metal game, but the well-known insider Tom Henderson, which is pretty known for his leaks on Call of Duty and Battlefield, he's got a pretty good reputation. And well, over on Twitter, he did post a pretty vague tweet with a picture of Twisted Metal with simply saying 2023. Now, this has led to a lot of speculation that he is leaking a Twisted Metal game that will release in 2023, which would kind of make sense. They do have a Twisted Metal TV series in development, so they could try to release a Twisted Metal game alongside that as well. I think that would make sense. But as always, when it comes to a leak like this, of course, you need to take it with a grain of salt. I will, however, note that VGC's very own Andy Robinson is also saying that it has been suggested to him as well that this actually could be real. This was in response to the former Twisted Metal director David Jaffe saying that he would be hurt if this turns out to be true. David Jaffe did say that he's not heard anything about a new Twisted Metal game, and he can't imagine Sony would just simply cut him out. So I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens with all this. But I do kind of like the idea of having a modern day Twisted Metal. I mean, I guess you can kind of say that Destruction All-Stars fits the Twisted Metal mold, but to see the actual Twisted Metal IP return, yeah, I think that would be pretty cool, especially for you longtime Twisted Metal fans out there. With that said, do keep in mind that all of this is a rumor for the time being, and let's say that even if they are working on a Twisted Metal game, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a big AAA title. It could be some kind of tie-in with the movie, it could be a mobile release, or, I mean, we just kind of have to wait and see what exactly this is, if there's even anything there at all. Let me know in the comments below, though, would you like to see the return of Twisted Metal for the PlayStation 5? Let's go ahead and talk about Valve and Xbox here for a moment, though, because Phil Spencer visited Valve over the last week, and I find this one really interesting. First, we'll kind of go ahead and look at what Phil Spencer had to say over on Twitter. He said, "Was Valve Software this week talking with Scott, Eric, Gabe about Steam Deck? After having mine most of the week, I can say it's a really nice device. Games with me on the go, screen size, controls all great. Playing Halo and Age feels good. xCloud works well. Congrats, Steam Deck team." And that is a very intriguing statement in general for multiple reasons. For one, he did kind of point out that he played Halo and Age of Empires on the Steam Deck as well as xCloud, saying that they all work really well. And it's really exciting for you Xbox fans out there that you're going to be able to play Xbox games on a Valve handheld device. That is really cool. I've kind of called this a low-key Xbox handheld in the past because theoretically you can install Windows on this device and then play Xbox Game Pass on the Steam Deck. So you can low-key turn this Steam Deck into a Xbox handheld console. This is something that Xbox fans have been wanting for such a long time, and I remember way back during the Xbox 360 days, Xbox fans were asking for a dedicated handheld console. Now, technically, they do have xCloud where you can stream games to your mobile phone or whatever, and that's all great and everything, but it's much better to play on a dedicated handheld console, and that's exactly what you're going to be able to do with the Steam Deck. Now, with that said, you can't play every Xbox game on the Steam Deck, but you will be able to play Xbox Game Pass games for PC on this handheld. And I mean, we were just kind of talking about it earlier, but Humankind, that's a great looking game. You're going to be able to play that on Xbox Game Pass for PC on Steam Deck when the Steam Deck officially launches. You're also going to be able to play games like Halo Infinite on this device through Xbox Game Pass for PC. But that's actually something that I found really interesting about this particular tweet, because Phil Spencer is actually having conversations with Valve about the Steam Deck. Now, all of this is just purely speculation, but with Valve and Xbox actively talking about the Steam Deck, it does have me wondering what exactly those conversations are about. It has me curious if maybe they could form a little bit more of a deeper partnership with the Steam Deck. I think the Steam Deck could heavily benefit from having Xbox Game Pass for PC available on it, and I also believe that having Xbox Game Pass for PC on Steam Deck is really big for Xbox as well. And right now, what you would have to do to get Xbox Game Pass running on a Steam Deck is actually to load Windows. But what if they could find a way to get Xbox Game Pass installed on the Steam Deck just right out of the gate? Now, I'm not saying that they're going to have it pre-installed or anything like that, but finding a way to get Xbox Game Pass to run on the Steam Deck just right out of the box without having to load Windows, that could end up being really big if they could actually do that. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, and this is just pure speculation, but I do find them having conversations right now about this to be very intriguing, because I definitely want to know what those are about. At the very least, it definitely sounds like Phil Spencer is embracing the idea of Steam Deck and how it could be a dedicated handheld console for Xbox. He's already actively testing out this device, talking with Valve about it, and even if we don't know what those conversations are about, it really does seem like that Steam Deck could be a low-key Xbox handheld console. Honestly, though, pretty much every time that I hear about the Steam Deck, it gets me more excited to play this console myself. It just has so much going for it, whether you want to play Xbox games, you want to play Steam games, you want to use it to be this just amazing handheld emulator, or really, even for that matter, you can play some PlayStation games through the Steam store. So this machine just has so much variety going for it, and I mean, technically, this is a dedicated handheld console that's going to be able to play Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam games. Now, how cool is that? Now, speaking of Nintendo games, I got some really good news for you Metroid fans out there. I'm a big Metroid fan myself, and it looks like Metroid Dread is on pace to have a major holiday. Now, this has been an ongoing conversation for quite a while now, but a lot of people do believe that Metroid Dread will become the best-selling Metroid game of all time, and I firmly do believe that will be the case for really multiple reasons. For one, I think we can kind of all see it right now. The hype for Metroid Dread has been insane since they first announced this game. Now, Metroid has always been a very well-known franchise among hardcore gamers. It's even known as being one of the best franchises of all time, but typically these games have not sold well. But when it comes to Metroid Dread, the hype for this particular title has just been through the roof, and I know a big part of that is the Switch effect. Pretty much every franchise that releases for the Nintendo Switch has majorly benefited from it. We've seen that time and time again. Look at Zelda's Skyward Sword HD. It has been selling incredibly well. Look at Monster Hunter Stories 2. That released last month for the Nintendo Switch, and according to NPD, it sold 3 times as much as the original title did lifetime in just one single month. That is incredible, but that is the Switch effect. Fans are buying these Nintendo games in droves. But I also think that something that people aren't really talking about right now is the rise of Metroidvania games. Metroidvania games are probably more popular than they have ever been before. With games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Blind Forest, you have Hollow Knight, you have Axiom Verge, and I mean, really, it just seems like there's a big new Metroidvania game almost on a monthly basis by this point. The rise of Metroidvania games are a very real thing, and I'm actually personally very happy about it. It's one of my personal favorite genres, and I love the Metroid franchise. So, yes, to put it short, I do believe that Metroid Dread will become the best-selling Metroid game, but we're already getting a good sign that that will happen. GameStop did post the top 10 most pre-ordered Nintendo Switch games since June 8th, and as you can see here, Metroid Dread is in fact the #1 most pre-ordered Nintendo Switch game over at GameStop, beating out both Pokemon as well as Mario Party Superstars. Now, those are massive franchises to beat out, especially Pokemon. I do kind of want to point out, though, that Pokemon is being sold in 3 separate SKUs. I think if you combine all 3 together, then they might end up beating out Metroid Dread. I mean, I can't say that with an absolute fact, but I just want to go ahead and point that out. But Mario Party Superstars, I mean, we've already seen with Super Mario Party just how successful that has been on the Nintendo Switch. It's already sold well above 10 million copies, and the fact that Metroid Dread is beating out in pre-orders, yeah, that's pretty impressive. This really is a good sign that Metroid Dread, in fact, could be a big breakout hit for the Metroid franchise, and that is incredible news. Maybe if Metroid Dread does become a big breakout hit for Nintendo, maybe we could get more Metroid games on a regular basis, and that's kind of what I'm really hoping for as a Metroid fan, and I know you Metroid fans out there have got to be on the same page with this. It's incredibly exciting seeing what's happening with Metroid Dread right now. Moving on, we do have one more topic to go over here just real quick, and that is for the Avengers game. The Avengers game has been out for a little while now, of course, and since it's launched, it's definitely had its issues, but if you remember right, a long time ago, they did announce that Spider-Man was going to come to the Avengers as a PlayStation exclusive. This was announced last year, and it was a big controversial topic. A lot of fans was not happy that this was going to be a PlayStation exclusive, and I mean, rightfully so. I'm really personally not a big fan of these publishers getting exclusive DLC type of content, especially one of this magnitude. Spider-Man is probably the most popular Marvel hero out there, and yeah, I just don't like that the PC fan base, the Xbox fan base, they cannot play Spider-Man. But I guess it is what it is. The problem, though, didn't quite end with the exclusivity deal with PlayStation, though, because this actually did end up getting delayed from early 2021 to supposedly later on this year. We haven't gotten a definitive release date as of this moment, but the good news for you fans out there that are looking forward to this Spider-Man DLC for Marvel's Avengers is that they are once again confirming that Spider-Man is indeed going to release before the end of 2021. So if you do play Avengers over on PlayStation consoles, you definitely have something to look forward to later this year. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But I do think that this could be big for the Marvel Avengers game. Spider-Man is a very popular hero, and I think it could bring in a little bit more players to the Avengers just as a whole. I think they're going to make a big deal about Spider-Man when they eventually announce his release date, and yeah, we'll see how all this plays out, but if done right, this could potentially really help out the Avengers game. And onto the poll of the day, I asked you all, how often do you buy physical copies of video games? Anytime that there's a conversation about which is better, physical or digital, fans get pretty passionate about their beliefs because both digital and physical definitely has their pros and cons. And over the last decade, we've definitely seen the rise of digital games. A lot more people than ever before are buying digital-only games, and it's made this conversation even more interesting within time. Like I said, both has their pros and cons, but I was intrigued to see what your all's response would be about this particular topic, and as you can see here, most of you all do seem to prefer the more digital route, with 62% of you leaning digital, while only 26% of you leaned more towards the physical route of things. 13% meanwhile was about half and half. And if you look through the comments, you can definitely see both points of view. It definitely seems like collectors really like their physical games. I'm a collector myself, which is why I prefer physical games. And another thing that physical owners really like is ownership. You actually own your copy of game, you can resell it, and you can do whatever you want with that copy of your game. Now, on the digital side of things, and I have done digital in the past, I actually was primarily digital for a couple years as I was moving around quite a bit, and I do agree with your all's points on this subject as well. Digital games are just much more convenient. You don't have to swap games in and out. They're just, you click and play, and that's a really nice way of doing things. You also don't have to worry about whether your game's going to be delivered day one or not. You're going to be able to download your game as soon as it's out, whereas, I mean, I've had times where my game has been delayed for a period of time. As an example, it just happened to me earlier this year. I pre-ordered It Takes Two, and it got delayed like 4 or 5 days, so I ended up canceling it, and then I bought it digital so me and my friend could play it that weekend. It was an unfortunate situation, but that type of stuff does happen when you buy physical games. So I really think that there's definitely pros and cons for both physical and digital, and I don't think that anybody is choosing the wrong direction. I always prefer choice myself, and that's actually what I'm really happy about right now, because these new consoles do support both physical and digital media. That's what I'm really happy about, because whether you like digital-only games or whether you like physical, you have that choice, and that's something that I want to see these console makers continue to do in the future. I do hope that we continue to have that choice in the years to come. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.